Hi everybody, my name is Charles, welcome, and today is an exciting day. After work today, I am going to start driving back out to Detroit, Michigan to purchase my dream boat. It is a 1979 Catalina 38. It's one of those attainable dream boats, not the I won the lottery and I'm going to buy a big yacht type of dream boats, but this one I can actually do, and it was a relatively inexpensive one. We'll talk about that later, but I do have to go to work, but when I get done with work, well, then my brother and I are going to load up, and he's going to accompany me on the way out, keep me awake a little bit more, I hope, than the last trip did, and then we're going to head out there. Now, I have been out once. I went out 2 weeks ago, same sort of thing, just went out over the weekend just to take a quick look at the boat and make sure that, yep, it doesn't have holes in it. I want this boat. Well, today we're going to go out, we're going to pay off the rest of the balance of the boat, sign all the paperwork, make it officially mine, and then we're going to start digging through and seeing, did I make a horrible mistake? Is this one of those don't meet your heroes things, or did I make a sound decision? But I have to get ready for work. We have to stop and pick up a new battery and some things like that. And then afterwards, we will hit the road and see how this trip goes. Step one, buy a new starter battery. Something like that. Now, we're definitely going to need a new starter battery. We're also going to need a house battery, but we need to start with the starter battery. I know that the batteries on the boat are tired. Well, might as well just go straight to the top of the heap with an Optima Blue top. So that was $300. Should mention that buying your dream boat on a deal means you're going to spend some more money. Anyway, now it's off to work, where I have to work for a few hours. And then at lunch, we have to go get an enhanced driver's license ordered up and get that taken care of, because the Welland Canal is through Canada, and I've heard conflicting reports of whether or not you need to have a passport and or enhanced driver's license to traverse it. And I'd rather get that process moving than get all the way there and tell them I don't have one and see them laugh at me. So. Now, I should also mention that I did buy this boat at a deal, and I'm going to be completely transparent with everything I spend on this boat. Now, these boats normally go for mid to upper 20s into the 30s, sometimes even more money. So, you know, $30,000 is kind of our target price, if you will. I bought mine for 10. So $10,000 for a 1979 Catalina 38. That said, a $10,000 boat that should be 30 probably needs some work. Now, in my case, it does need a little bit of work. Now, part of it is because it's still all very original. Like, all the electrics are original, all the cushions are original. Like, there hasn't been any updates over the years, as you see on some of these nicer examples. So it'll be an interesting kind of compare and contrast to see that as we eventually upgrade my boat and fix things and whatnot, do we end up at the same price point as having bought a $30,000 nice one? There's another big kind of asterisk to this, and that is it's very hard to find these boats on this end of the country. There's a lot of them out in California. Now, this one actually was sold from the same marina that I'm buying it from. When this boat was brand new, that's where this came from. I guess there were a few of them from up there, I guess, from judging by some things I found online. But for the most part, though, it's very hard to find them out here, so I was very glad to find one. Now, there is one down in South Carolina that was hurricane damage for $5. But my thought process was, well, if I'm going to have to replace rudders and do a lot of bottom work and all the other things that were damaged, by the time I bought a $5,000 boat, had it hauled up here, because that one wouldn't be able to be sailed up, that would have to be hauled. I don't know what that would cost, another $5,000, $10,000. I don't know how much sailboat hauling costs on a boat that size and that distance. By the time I got it here and then did all the work, like, it would have been hitting that $20,000, $30,000 mark, and it wouldn't have been as practical. This one, though, I can buy for 10, fix up for hopefully less than another 20, get it out here, and then over time, we can do the rest of it. Maybe get some new cushion covers. The cushions are in good shape. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just old, the old kind of scratchy-ish kind of material. You'll see when we get there. But I wouldn't mind some new, more like a smoother fabric style. But the cushions themselves are fine. It's just a matter of making covers or something, which I've never done, but maybe I can find somebody that'll do that for me, or I guess it'll probably cost me as much to find someone as it would be to buy a Sailrite and try to learn how to do all the sewing myself. So for the first purchase, like I said, this Optima Blue Top, this is officially the first purchase for this new boat. So that was $300. I got a deal on it. They brought it down from the $50 it was, so they gave me $50 off basically, which was nice of the dude. Very appreciative of that. Also means there's a lot of wiggle room in the profit on those suckers. You can just wing $50 off the top. Anyway, that's the first purchase. Now I do have thousands of dollars in other products to go in. Some of them are going to be need products. Some of those are preventative maintenance or spares. For example, on the trip back, in case we need engine parts, we want to have spares on hand. Now, I would want to have spares for most of these things on hand anyway, so it's not like it's a throwaway purchase. But some of the stuff you wouldn't really necessarily have as a full spare all the time. Some of these things you would probably just, if something started acting up, you would just go buy one then. You want to have filters, you want to have impellers and things like that on hand, but other parts maybe not. Like, you don't always need to carry motor mounts with you, $100 and some odd a pop, but we're going to plan for the worst. Some of the other stuff though, like I know I need 2 new stanchions on the starboard side, so we're going to order those. Those are $115 a pop. So there's a lot of stuff like that. We'll go over that once we get back from the boat, because once we get back from the boat, we'll have a full list of what we're going to need, because right now we don't know what that list is. I have some things that I know we need, but I don't know what's on the boat all the way. I only took a very short glance, basically made sure the hull was sound. There wasn't water pouring in off the deck. Not that it would, it's shrink wrapped, but you know what I mean. And make sure the rigging is all there and whatnot. So I put the deposit down. We're going to go out and pay the balance today, and or tomorrow, I guess I should say. We're going to leave today. We're going to get out there tomorrow and take care of all this and take a really good look at the boat. See not only what's on the boat and what the boat needs, but also what equipment this gentleman has at his house that wasn't on the boat that we may or may not need. Now, I've already got a handheld VHF, and he said he's got one to throw in the boat, but stuff like that, you never know. Another fun part of this trip is that my brother will be accompanying me this time. Last time I drove out by myself, it was quite the adventure. I left Saturday night at 9 o'clock. This is 2 weeks ago. I left on 9 o'clock Saturday night. I got out there for 8 o'clock Sunday morning, spent an hour and a half looking at the boat, drove all the way back, got back 8:30 Sunday night. So it was a 24-hour turnaround, and then I had to work on Monday. Very little sleep those couple nights. This time it'll be a little bit better. We're leaving on a Friday, and we're leaving a little earlier. We'll still get out there plenty of time Saturday morning. Tomorrow morning we'll have all day to look at the boat and then turn around and leave and have leisurely time back on Sunday, and hopefully with more time to sleep in between. So anyway, that's the plan, and I'm going to take care of the rest of my stuff, and I will see you when we're getting ready to depart tonight, and then you'll see this boat soon. All right, it's 3:30 in the morning. We're in the Michigan Welcome Center in Monroe, and yeah, fun times. We're going to get a couple hours of sleep, continue on our journey, meet the gentleman at the bank, sign over all the paperwork, and hit the boat. See you in the morning. All right, so we've made it to mine boat. Sorry about the wind noise. It's well, it's windy. There's a thunderstorm coming through here at any point in time, but this is my new boat. I have signed the paperwork. It is all mine, with a full keel, or full fin keel, not the shoal keel, rather. That's what I meant to say. They do make a shoal keel version for this. I don't see them very often, and this one is mine, and it's got a nice 7-foot draft, which will make it really much a pain in the ass to put somewhere. So right now we're just going to kind of take a look around. Again, sorry about the wind noise. I'm trying to block it with my body as much as I can. But we've got, our speed sensor here and our stuff here. But hull-wise, everything's pretty good. Nothing crazy, no blisters or anything. There was a survey done 2 years ago. Clean bill of health for the most part, with a couple of minor things. He did polish the hull. Works pretty good there. There's a little bit of tiny moisture in the starboard side of the rudder, but nothing that's going to keep us from doing everything we need to do. We've got a 2-blade folding prop over here, which, coupled with the 2-cylinder 20-horse Yanmar, might make passage a little bit interesting. You can see it behind it in all our glory there. I paid $10,000 for this boat. I can safely say that now that I've bought it and nobody can snipe it out from under me. Yeah, not a bad thing. Like I said, this is my dream boat. This is a boat I've been wanting for a while, and just happened to find one. So pretty cool. So we're gonna jump on board. All right, everybody, welcome aboard Elysium, my newly acquired 79 Catalina 38. It's a fun boat. My brother and I have just spent a bunch looking around. So if we start here in the main cabin, I mean, I'm 6 feet tall, and I got headroom for days. It's awesome. My Newport 28 that I had before this had plenty of headroom, but not like this. Now, if we walk forward, we've got our V-berth, very large and spacious. We've even got one of those fancy boards that comes in here and gets it even better. We've got storage up in there, got a man overboard pole. I will say this boat came equipped. A couple of gym buoys there. Under here, we've got our through holes for our airspeed and our depth sensor. And on top of that, we've got, you can see right here, one of the wooden bungs. We've got the cap, the blank for that one. Like, the only thing I don't like is everything is bulb valves because it's all original. But everything works fine and nice and smooth, so that is a plus. Back on this side, we've got a hanging locker with some foul weather gear and inflatable life vests. Spinning around, we've got a full-size head. A little bit dark at the moment with the cover on outside, but here we go. We've got a pull-out faucet handle for a shower, and you know, a grate down here, and brand new toilet, so that's cool. Yeah, again, 6 foot plus headroom. Awesome. I don't know what's in there. I haven't looked. Doesn't look like much. But let's look. Ah, first aid kits. Sweet. More shit I don't have to buy. And that's just empty. Awesome. Again, cool. Moving around into the cabin. Again, we've got kind of a mess at the moment just because we've been digging through everything. Now, we've got a Yanmar 2-cylinder diesel. We did have a service kit and a tool kit down here, which is pretty cool. Emergency life raft, a bunch of jack lines and pumps and equipment and other tools. We've got stuff up here, extra fire extinguishers, you know, just tapes. Forget what was in here. More stuff, lots more stuff. It is crazy to see that line right there, piggybacked into that 110 outlet. Oh, that's what this goes to. I just had an epiphany when it comes to that plug. Cool. Yeah, this handheld spotlight actually plugs in right next to my Yanmar power panel outside. This side, empty. Cool. One thing I want to point out, look here. We've got these here, and they match up over here, as an actual pipe berth to put like an actual cot. I've never seen one with them equipped, never seen pictures of one. I don't know how I would set one up, but I kind of want to now just because it's there. So with chain plates, look great, no staining, no nothing, both sides. No signs of water egress at all in this entire boat. Granted, we are currently under wraps. Now, so far, everything he's told me has been accurate, so I have no reason to doubt certain things that he says. Like, for example, this hatch here, he said, unless you're spraying it directly with a hose, it doesn't leak in. I'll just rebed that. You'll have to bear with me. It is really blustery today. We did fire up the electronics. Everything does work there. That's pretty cool. We do have the old original panel over here. So that we're going to need to update over time, but it seems that things actually are working currently. We have to mess with the nav lights, but with it being wrapped and daylight, it's really hard to see anything. Now, I haven't been able to get this old Garmin to light up yet, but I don't know if it's got a separate power panel somewhere or a separate plug or what it's hooked to up here, so I'm not too worried about that. We're going to use an iPad at the nav station anyway. Turning around, we do have a Yanmar 2-cylinder. I forget what model it is. It's a 2QM20H. So a Yanmar 2QM20H, and we actually started it just like that. It worked perfectly. I bought that brand new Optima battery, so I just took some jumper cables, jumpered it to the starter battery, went out, turned the key on after turning the battery switch on, started like within 2 seconds. Like it started right up, sounds great. Obviously we can't run it long, we don't have it in the water, and we just, you know, ran some water into the water pump just to keep the impeller lubed. Not that we don't have 2 spares, there's another one right here, in fact. So, but it sounds great, everything runs good. It looks really clean. We jumped down in the cockpit locker and looked from the backside. It does look really clean. There's some tape on things like to hold throttle cable from flapping around, but it's not structural or anything like that, which is pretty cool. Some other things that are really neat in this boat that I haven't had in my last one. I swear it's only rocking a little bit. obviously I got a TV, so that's cool. We have an ice box over here in the galley, so it's a nice wraparound galley here. I really like the interior layout of this boat, and I've mentioned that before. I really like the wraparound seating on the port side, and then the straight over here, the little galley area over here. I really like the layout. A nice big quarter berth under here, and I don't know if you can tell, but it goes all the way back to that little wall. Now this boat is completely different than my last two in that the cabin is completely separated from the cockpit of the boat. My other ones, you had holes and cockpit openings and things. This one, like, you don't have that. So any spiders that get into those cockpit lockers stay there. They don't have a way into the boat, which is awesome. That was always a thing before. Anyway, we've got a nice box, and we did find that down under here we do have the what's it called? The condenser or whatever for the fridge unit. I don't know anything about them. I've never used them. Last time, my last boats, I just used an electric plug-in fridge chest freezer cooler thingy, which worked great. And yeah, but it's a nice big quarter berth. I like that. I like sleeping there a lot of times. If I'm spending time with other people, then I will, I'll let them sleep on here and I'll sleep in there. We do have some other goodies though. We've got some other, is this another manual bilge pump switch? Yep. So we got a new bilge pump switch. It might be hard to see what that is, but that's the original bilge pump switch. So we've got a new one. That's pretty cool. It'll give us something to do. Here's my engine keys. We'll put them away along with my other keys. My Yanmar toolkit we found. Pretty awesome. Bags. We've got bags upon bags of parts. That's an entire bag full of hose clamps. Reminds me, I need to look at something real quick. We'll do that after camera though. We've got just some reading material here, which is awesome. And I want to look inside this. There's two more things I haven't looked into yet. One is inside the chart plotter table. Oh, my dad's gonna be thrilled. Lots of cool stuff in here. I have one more area to check, and that is actually under the rest of the seats. Now, under that back seat is actually the holding tank. Don't really need to look at that, but I have not looked under there yet, so I'm going to do that. First impressions, I'm very happy, very pleased. Everything looks a lot better than I ever expected it, and certainly a lot better than I expected for $10,000. And I think I've saved about $3,000 on my shopping list of what I think I'm going to need for this boat, for this trip. For example, the steering is flawless and in great condition, so that's about $500 I get to save by not needing to buy a pedestal rebuild kit and new steering cable. The engine, there's a lot of spares. We have all the kits and the filters and everything, and it runs great. So I really just need to buy a spare mechanical fuel pump, and then the engine will be fine, and it runs great. Like I said, we got all the spares for that. So there's a few $100s worth of extra spare parts there I wasn't counting on needing. A lot of the lines are actually very new or very serviceable, which means that there's probably $600-700 worth of halyards and sheets that I don't need to buy. There's a lot of stuff I don't need to buy now, which is awesome. That makes me feel a lot better about the trip. Now that I've heard the engine run, now that I know everything else works good, it makes me feel better about that. Now, we still don't know what kind of power this thing will push through the water with a little 2-blade prop and a 20-horse engine, but yeah, we're getting there. So again, first impressions, I love my new boat, and we're gonna load the sails up. We picked them up from the previous owner today. All right, so still pretty loud. Changed over to my phone. We've just offloaded all the sails. So we've got a main, a spinnaker that the gentleman never used. We've got another main down there, a 150 Jenny in that bag, and then down there we have another head sail. I don't think it's a 150, I think it's smaller, but I'm not sure what. Unfortunately, it's way too windy for us to pull it out and take a look. All right, we are climbing up the side of the boat as much as I can. There we go. There we go. So yeah, we're coming up here for a couple things. Oh. Ah! Anyway, I wanted to see how the winches work on the main. And the other side, I don't know what that is, but that one, oh, it might be tied off, but Nice blocks. All right, anyway, let's get the hell out of here. Anyway, so that's my adventure so far, getting to my boat and checking everything. Now I just need to go home, make my new shopping list, try not to spend that extra $3,000 I'm saving on something else just for the kicks of it. So the next video will probably be, unless something crazy happens at home, coming back up here in a month to start doing boat work in prep of putting it in the water and trying to get it to Lake Ontario, where I don't yet have a marina. All right, it is Sunday. Welcome back home. We got back late last night, about midnight or so, and got some sleep, and we had a whole day off before tomorrow. I had originally planned on stopping at a hotel, but we just made it all the way through, so awesome. More importantly, let's talk a couple things about the boat. So first thing, we'll go over everything we have and don't have and all that stuff, like the immediate plans for the journey to get the boat back here. Then we'll talk a little bit more about long-term plans for the boat, which is just going to be kind of an overview. But short-term, I had a whole spreadsheet full of things that I needed desperately to make sure we had, and a lot of the stuff we don't now. So for example, stanchions on here, we still need those, fine. But first aid kit, well, we don't need that anymore. Cool. I should mention that right now, and this is not a permanent list, but right now, this list has a cost total of about $4,000 on it. $4,070 is what it started at. So we'll see how much of this stuff disappears as we talk through this. Pedestal repair kit for the steering pedestal. We no longer need that. The pedestal is in great shape. The steering in general is in great shape. So we don't need the rebuild kit. Likewise, right down here is one for the steering cable at a cost of $318, not counting tax or shipping, but we don't need one of those. So between the two of those, that's almost 500 bucks. Shaft maintenance kit, I'm going to keep that there just because we may want one later. But otherwise, an injection pump, we don't need that. Throttle transmission cable, we don't need that. Tiller handle, an emergency tiller head, we don't need that either. So on the back of these boats, right behind the steering pedestal, there's a rudder post, and on the top of that rudder post is a stainless steel cap that a emergency tiller would fit to. So if something did break in the steering wheel, you put a little tiller on, then you have an actual tiller on top of this cap. Now in my case, I couldn't remember what the top of that cap looked like, but I did know it did not look like the current style replacement tiller cap that Catalina Direct sells. Likewise, I didn't know that if it wasn't the right one, am I going to have a tiller handle, or should I just buy a whole new cap and handle together? Turns out we found the emergency tiller. It was under one of the starboard cushions, and now we don't need either of those. That's another $180 no longer spending. As far as the trip goes, we should be all set. The motor started great and beautiful. The steering's great. Everything else should be good. The only other thing we didn't check, we didn't notice, is we don't know about the boat speed indicator. The gauges seem to work. The instruments work, rather. We won't be able to test the depth sounder until we're in the water, but it should work. The video that the seller had showed that working just fine on the video he took from last year. The wind indicator does work. We tested that, and we were getting quite blown around yesterday. We just don't know if the water speed, hull speed, whatever you want to call it, we don't know if that works, because unless you're really consistent with it, like you go out with your finger and spin it, but if nothing happened, it could just be broken. We don't know, but that's the least important of the instruments, and the other two work fine, so we're good with that. So steering works, motor works, as far as we know. We don't know about the transmission side, but everything looks beautiful, so we should be good there. We get our anchoring stuff set, and then we put our electric in there between the VHF, solar panel on the back, a new house bank, and then we should be good for our trip, assuming we can find places that can hold a 7-foot draft. Now, my ultimate goal for this boat long term is to just make it a lot more comfortable, but I'm trying to balance this is what I would love to do to go sailing around the world with this boat kind of plan, versus realistically, for quite a while, we're going to just have this on the dock 6 months out of the year in a marina in Lake Ontario, sailing on the weekends. So we don't need to get too crazy, but there is stuff that I want to put in place. So for example, I want to continue on the electrical build out. with a secondary house battery. So we've got, realistically 500-600 amp hours worth of lithium power on the boat. Probably about 600 watts of solar panels, depending on it. And again, that's because the boat is not going to be spent full-time cruising or anything like that. What little I'm going to use over the weekend, and then over the next week after that, the solar panels should easily top that back off. But to go beyond that, I would like to expand it and grab a Multi Plus 2, I think it's what it's called, from Victron, which is a all-in-one kind of charger inverter thing, right? So I can plug that in, and then if I'm plugged into shore power at the dock, it'll charge the batteries, it'll power the 120 system and everything that way. But if I unplug it, it'll switch into inverter mode and then use my house bank batteries to do all the same stuff. And that means everything in the boat that's 120 will continue to work on 120 being fed through the inverter off the house batteries when it's not plugged in. I don't expect that that would be too often, but this is also the first boat where I would actually use a shore power connection. My other boats didn't have that, or in the case of my Newport, I took it out because it was kind of sketchy and I didn't want to risk anything. This one, not quite so sketchy, and it's got some features that would be nice to have the 124. But there are some things that I might not need. Now I have a 6-gallon hot water heater on board. Don't know if I really need that. If I'm at the dock, I can just go take a shower in the facilities. I don't really need the hot water on the boat. But there's a possibility we may convert that to like a 12-volt hot water heater system and still keep it. Another thing we have to do is we have to completely replumb the water system for the most part. The lines are all old and not the cleanest smelling, so you kind of get a bit of a funk when you get some of the water. Now, he did put a pretty big house-style water filter on one end, so in the galley, that's your kitchen area, the water there is fine when it comes out of the tank, goes through the pumps and everything, it gets there. It's filtered and it's fine, but pre-filter, it's not quite so good. So we're going to re-plumb everything, all new everything. I don't know if we need to get quite so crazy as to replace the entire tank, but definitely all the lines, so we'll have to map out what we're going to need. But that's not a right now problem. I would like to also eventually make a Dodger, and again, my solar panels ultimately would be more like on a bimini cover, kind of like a cockpit over the back of you in the back of the boat, but we have to figure out how to build one of those nice and neatly. I did take some measurements of the railings and things like that, so I can start kind of sketching that, but again, not a today problem. Eventually, we would like some new sails. Again, not a today problem. We do have 2 sets of head sails. We have 2 mains, and we have a spinnaker. So we have working sails. We just might want newer ones down the road later. Likewise with the rest of the electrical, changing navigation lights and changing lines and fittings and re-rigging the boat. Everything looks to be in really good shape when it comes to the standing rigging, but I don't know if it was ever changed. I have not yet found a receipt for standing rigging changes. I found receipts for a lot of other things, but not for that. So it's possible that the standing rigging, the wires holding the mast up, are still 45 years old. But this boat has always been in fresh water, which definitely helps limit corrosion. But over time, fatigue will set in. It doesn't show any yet, that we can tell, but that is something down the road that we'd like to bookmark some money for changing everything over. Would like some new cushion covers. The cushions are actually very, very comfortable, but it would be nice to have a different design instead of this old funky 70s plaid thing going on. What else? Oh, a big one would be potentially repowering the boat with a new engine. Now, the engine that's in it is a Yanmar 2QM20H. Essentially a 2-cylinder diesel with about 20 horsepower, and it's a marine style. The only downfall is it might be a little underpowered to push a 16,000-pound boat around a lake, especially a lake that potentially has a lot of wind and waves, and when you factor it with just a small 2-bladed prop, which doesn't have quite the thrust as like a 3-blade would, we might be a little underpowered for anything above motoring on a nice day. Now there's a Yanmar 3-cylinder, a 3YM30 or something like that, that is a pretty popular swap, but we are talking in the magnitude of thousands of dollars to do that. So we'll see how this trip goes and how the engine performs as it is. It may work beautifully, we just don't know. We haven't had it in the water yet. If it works great, then we're fine. We'll leave it and we'll just keep maintaining it. These things are supposed to be nigh bulletproof as long as you maintain it. But if it's struggling a bit, as long as we get through this trip, then we'll put that on the docket of the probably should do this soon items. Another thing I'd like to do down the road is to completely overhaul the instruments package from not just the wind depth and speed gauges, but a complete suite of everything, new chart plotters and all that fun stuff, just to give it a more modern feel that way. And then maybe down the road, if we do decide we're going to take this thing cruising long term, we would just need to fit some extra gas tanks, diesel tanks, and potentially extra water. But it depends on where we're going. Now, the plans don't sound all that grand, but they do take money, they do take time. And I guess we'll see how that goes as we go. But for now, I'm going to refine my to-do list as far as what we need. Now, tomorrow I need to call the Canal Authority to find out whether or not I do need an enhanced driver's license. That was a big fail, by the way. I won't get into it. Or a passport. I need to call the marinas that I've been asking about to see if they have been able to find room for me yet, because I don't even have a home to bring her to. And the third thing is I need to call the marina that it's at and try to schedule this thing to get in and launched. I don't know if I mentioned this, but the Welland Canal is now opening on March 22nd of this year, which is next week. It's the 16th now, so 6 more days. So next Saturday, this Welland Canal is supposed to open. I wasn't expecting it to open until May. Now, the fun part of that is I thought I was going to miss my whole trip because I have work obligations the last week of April, first week of May. I wouldn't be able to get to the boat. We thought we were going to have people go out and start moving this boat over at the beginning of May. Turns out we might be able to do this earlier, as early as the beginning of April, depending on when that marina is able to launch the boat. Tentatively, I am planning on going out on April 9th, splashing on the 10th, assuming they can do it, and then taking the 11th for like a sea trial day, and then starting the trip to bring this back, see how far we make it, and whether or not I have to get off halfway and run back to work. Anyway, for now, I'm going to get doing some more research. Thanks for coming along. This will be kind of the summer's main project. I do have some other stuff with the Oxford House, but for now, my Catalina 38 project is now kind of primary focus for getting that done. Once it's at the dock, we can relax, but for now, it's going to be a busy few weeks. Take care.